Welcome to another episode of The Dissection. The Democratic Alliance has terminated the membership of the controversial podcaster Renaldo Gouws. And what they've said in their statement is the following. The Democratic Alliance can confirm that the party's federal executive has unanimously resolved to terminate Mr. Renaldo Gouws' membership. Mr. Gouws has been formally informed of this decision. He therefore forfeits his Democratic Alliance seat in Parliament. This decision follows a thorough investigation conducted by the DA's Federal Legal Commission into the allegations against Mr. Gouws. The FLC found Mr. Gouws guilty of contravening several sections of the DA's constitution. The DA remains committed to upholding its values of accountability, non-racialism, and respect for all South Africans. So this is what has happened. John Steenhuisen yesterday made some references to this issue, I think, and another issue, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. So here are some reflections from my perspective on this. Number one, it appears that the Democratic Alliance has decided that keeping the right-wing podcasters who have been the subject of so much conversation since the end of the elections and the announcement of their members of parliament, chief of staff, that kind of thing, is not something that will help them navigate their coalition, navigate this moment, and navigate the media landscape. Number two, these stories have become a distraction for the party and have killed the momentum and narrative of their other victories. Number three, it's very clear that the DA has actually been doing very well in the Government of National Unity coalition, to the point where ANC ministers even raised in the ANC meetings that they were being outperformed. Let's look at some examples. Dean McPherson has been given lots of credit by the public, by the media, for exposing 300 million rands in corruption that was happening in his department. That was something that was well received by the public. Dean McPherson as well has been given lots of credit for blocking frivolous spending on the upgrades to ministers' homes. He said he's blocking all of that. No new accommodation will be purchased. All of these things have been viewed positively. The Minister of Home Affairs, Leon Schreiber, has been praised for reducing backlogs at Home Affairs, for exposing ID fraud in the Chidima Adinchina case and how the department was very transparent in handling that. He has been well received in his role as the Minister of Home Affairs once he hit the ground running. The Minister of Basic Education, Siviwe Gwarube, has been praised for blocking a 10 billion rand school nutrition tender that was not properly awarded. She's also being praised for aiming to eradicate pit toilets by next year. John Steenhuisen himself, the leader of the DA and the Minister of Agriculture, has been given credit by people in the farming community for resolving some of the sticky issues that were happening with trade in China in particular. I think there were some issues around foot and mouth and the different ways that the Chinese government was interpreting it and the South African government was interpreting it. And while he was in China with President Ramaphosa, he had discussions with the Chinese government. And from what he posted, he thought that they had made a lot of progress on that issue. So these are positive stories that the DA wants to be front and center in their discussions with the public. But of course, if there are people in your party who are being criticized for statements that they've made recently in the past, for attitudes that they've exhibited to the public, that can take away momentum, that can take away, your narrative, because you will still be asked about those issues. So that's my third point or third comment around this. My fourth comment is that this is the second announcement that John has made, or that has been made in 2 days. The other one was made yesterday by John Steenhuisen, announcing that he would ask his chief of staff to step down. And he actually then said the following in this clip around mistakes that were made. There's a funny moment in this clip because he doesn't say I made a mistake. He says we, but here's what he said.
Course of the last few days, and I'm happy to admit we don't always get it right. We never will. People make mistakes. People don't always get it right. And I think you should be judged on what you do when that mistake has been made, it's been pointed out to you, and what you do thereafter. And so there has been a conversation with Mr. Kavanagh. It is a human resources discussion that's underway. And frankly, I found it far too distracting from the work of my ministry and our government that he is the news story rather than the work of the department. And I have asked him, therefore, whether he would consider stepping aside to order us to continue and move forward. And
my fifth comment is that it's difficult for the DA to request for compromised individuals in the ANC government to step aside or step down if there's an appearance that they are protecting individuals in their own inner circle from accountability. For instance, how do you push for the Minister of Justice, Thembisa Milani, to step down while it seems that you are protecting people within your own organizations? The issues may be different. One pertains to corruption, the other pertains to maybe racial comments, homophobic comments, comments which are not at the same nature of offense as corruption allegations, but still would be concerning to the public. So if you now say, we've asked our people to step down, we've asked this person to step down, this gives them a stronger wicket to bat from when they make these kind of requests from their coalition partners to say, hey, we think there's a conflict of interest with your Minister of Justice, she should step down. Now, the other side cannot come up and say, oh, but you're protecting this guy or protecting this guy, etc., because they can say, no, we went through a process, we removed our guys, it's time for you to do the same. Right. My sixth comment is around the conduct of these gentlemen. These gentlemen clearly created a lot of enemies in the years that they were making YouTube content. They said so many problematic things in the 14 or so years that they were dominant on YouTube. They were obviously courted by Helen Zille and some people within the DA who thought that they could bring a new constituency to the DA. And post-2019, there was a view that, the DA lost voters to Freedom Front Plus, and that in order to get those voters back, you needed to really go a little bit further into the right-wing side of South African politics to bring those people back. I mean, they were visiting Orania. I think Roman visited Orania, etc., just to show that there was this sub-narrative around we are really going back or to classic liberalism or leaning into this right-wing stuff. And that's something that was done. But in the way that it was done, I think this gentleman definitely created a lot of enemies within the DA, within the media, and with public society in general. I mean, you'd be surprised how many people within the DA would be raising issues, on the sidelines about the conduct of these gentlemen, about how they are affecting the image of the party, that kind of thing. Many of them obviously wouldn't say anything in public because they don't want to be, earmarked as being troublemakers and remove themselves, because people are afraid of Helen, they're afraid of John. But I think in and of itself, these men actually created a lot of opponents. And this is why when they got into these public positions, then a lot of criticism then unsurfaced. The media covered a lot of this. It wasn't just a social media thing, the mainstream media as well. You see Daily Maverick, News 24, IOL. That's basically the whole spectrum, of media. Sunday Times covering these issues, Mail and Guardian, all of the media houses in South Africa covered this. Newsroom Africa, SABC. That's the extent to which they had created hostility and opponents in the media. Now, I want to talk a little bit further about something that I think is important, this concept of unlearning and relearning. I actually think that it's possible for people to change, whether it's hate, whether it's bias, conscious or unconscious, whether it's conduct. I've seen people, throughout the arc of history, really reform themselves and become such assets to the public. If you think about, Malcolm Little, who became, Malcolm X, he at some point was a criminal and was an enemy of society. He went to prison, he changed his views, And he then became a better person. He became a better person. When he came out of prison, he became a significant political leader. But even as a political leader under the Nation of Islam, there were still some things that he said that were very, very hurtful, very heavy. And as he then actually became a real Muslim, he then came to understand the teachings of Islam. And he then changed his name once again. He changed his name once again to El-Hajj Malik Al-Shabazz. So when he was El-Hajj Malik Al-Shabazz, he expounded his views on race, on society, on integration. He was somebody who then became a very passionate Pan-African, in that he argued for Pan-African solidarity, solidarity between the African-American community and the African community. He used to call us the diaspora, but he's the diaspora. But anyway, he evolved. He also evolved his views on race. He became more inclusive, and he disavowed himself from the views that he had when he was younger, when he was Malcolm X. So Malik Al-Shabazz was a different man to Malcolm X, who was a different man to Malcolm Little. And that's just one example. I think that there are others that we can pull out of the pages of history of people who may have been colorful and objectionable figures in one stage of their lives, but ended their lives totally transformed. And as statesmen, as leaders, Malcolm X, unfortunately, was assassinated, and we never got to see how his whole story would end. The moral of what I'm putting across is that I think that unlearning is possible, relearning is possible. I have some points I want to make about this. Number one is I think this could have ended differently for Renaldo. I think that number two, that he should have firstly owned up to his mistakes when the videos resurfaced. But what he did at the time is first he had this dismissive apology. Then he argued about context. And then he tried to deflect. And then he even said that it was artificial intelligence and that the videos in and of themselves were not real. All of that led to many people viewing his apology as not being genuine. He also felt that, look, this is the past. I've dealt with this. I've addressed this. But when you become a public representative, oftentimes you have to explain again, and you have to explain anew. You know, Trevor Noah, when he first got the job at The Daily Show and was going to America, many of his tweets from 2013 or thereabouts started being raised again in the American space. He had to explain, he had to account, he had to apologize again. And, you know, people listened to his explanation and answers, and they were like, you know what? We think that you're a different person. Yeah, go ahead, work at The Daily Show. And he did. He worked there. He left on his own terms. All I'm trying to say is that this really didn't have to be handled in this particular way. I think that there was a different way of handling it. And here's what Clement Manyathela said at the time, and I think it's still relevant, and it's something that he needs to listen to and reflect upon maybe a little bit more.
So, the Democratic Alliance has suspended its Member of Parliament, Renaldo Gouws, after a video of him surfaced making racist remarks. There are other videos of him, in fact, which have been on social media already over the years, where his discrimination against people is so glaring. So how did this get past the DA? Because despite his visible social media profile, the party still deployed him to Parliament, which makes you wonder about the DA and whether it's sensitive, or even its sensitivity or lack thereof, to the plight of racism in this country. Here is the latest clip that has emerged of Renaldo Gouws from years ago calling for the killing of black people. And in this video, he uses the N and the K words several times.
Now, for those of you that don't know out there, okay, when in South Africa a person says, or when in America a person says, what do you think they refer to? They try to use a derogatory term for black people, okay? In South Africa, when a black man says, kill the boer, kill the farmer, he's not talking about farmers, he's talking about white people, okay? Now, this has erupted in South Africa, okay, this thing that he did now. That, you know, and the excuse is it's the struggle song, you know? Well, yeah, the struggle ended almost 20 years ago. Why the are you still singing about the struggle?
This is the video that prompted the DA to suspend him. The party says in its statement that, and I quote, The DA has established that the video in which Renaldo Gouws uses execrable language is in fact genuine and not as fake as initially suspected. The DA Federal Executive has therefore suspended Mr. Gouws with immediate effect while he faces disciplinary charges before the party's Federal Legal Commission, end quote. But what on earth is execrable language? That's how the DA describes this racist, vile, disgusting video of Renaldo Gouws. They say he used execrable language. Let's look at what execrable means. It means extremely bad or unpleasant, which is true. What Renaldo said is extremely bad and it's unpleasant. But above all, it's racist. So why is the DA not calling it what it is? There's no reference in their statement of racism. And yet, this man uses the N and the K words repeatedly. Now, John Steenhuisen was asked about other videos that were previously made by this gentleman that emerged, in which he makes almost similar disparaging remarks about black people. And this is how John Steenhuisen responded on Inauguration Day.
I think the remarks need to be seen in the context. He's apologized for them. It was 16 years ago. When people are young and irresponsible, they're young and irresponsible. He's acknowledged that. He realized he was now a member of parliament and he now has to abide by the rules of the caucus.
And that clip is courtesy of IOL. John Steenhuisen says he was young and irresponsible. Young and irresponsible. That explanation is supposed to be sufficient? How does John Steenhuisen and the DA not realize that no racist person gets rehabilitated from racism by just apologizing? What has he practically done, this Renaldo guy, to be a better human? Did he go to sensitivity training? Has he attended reconciliatory sessions? What has he done to demonstrate that he is different now? Did the DA ask him that? Or did they just simply accept his apology because he was young and irresponsible, as John Steenhuisen says? The Human Rights Commission has stepped in. They will be approaching the Equality Court for some accountability. They believe that Gouws' remarks constitute hate speech and harassment.
We're always concerned about these racist comments going around, and especially now that the hate speech has been written into an act, we are very concerned about it. But more concerned is that it could be uttered by a person with a standing like that in society and going to parliament. And yes, we are concerned. But, as we say in the commission, it must be investigated and the person must be given a time and a place to defend him or herself in this matter. So we will do investigation. We will have to go and engage the person that has uttered, supposedly, allegedly uttered this. But yes, even if it's done in the past, we always have to make sure that now it's resurfaced. As you know, in other cases, that even a retweet by anybody else is also an offense.
I really hope that he will be thrown into jail, because the new hate speech bill is now law and the penalties seem to be somewhat harsh enough. That's if this will be applied retrospectively, seeing that the video was recorded before the bill became law. But I hope he will be fired even from parliament, because as we speak now, he remains a member of parliament until his membership of the Democratic Alliance is terminated. I hope there will be accountability. This country has been soft on racists for a very long time. It's crazy that black people must be subjected to this level of hatred 30 years into our democracy, when they were subjects of legislated racism and hatred for decades and decades of apartheid. So shame on Renaldo Gouws. He has never shown genuine remorse. In fact, his first statement after the first videos emerged, he said in the last paragraph, and I quote here, please drink a Panado for the chest pains if a video of 16 years ago offended you, end quote. That's what he said. He has since deleted that post because I think he saw that it revealed his true character and intentions. He followed up this deleted post with an apology, which the DA then accepted. Now, as much as the DA has done the right thing by suspending him and subjecting him to a disciplinary hearing, I believe the DA should have been bold enough to expel him. He lied to the party and said the latest video where he calls for the killing of black people while using the K word and the N word is fake. Does that demonstrate someone who is remorseful and honorable? The DA has missed an opportunity here to send a strong message that it doesn't tolerate this behavior by expelling him, and go even further by going to lay charges against him themselves. If their constitution doesn't see racist behavior as warranting expulsion, maybe they need to revisit it. The question I'm asking you tonight is, what do you make of the DA's decision to suspend its member of parliament, this Renaldo Gouws, due to these racist remarks? Would expulsion have been a more appropriate sanction in your view? What do you...
Third thing I want to say is that Renaldo is a talented speaker. He's a talented politician. And he's a well-educated man. He holds a master's degree from the Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University. So he's well-read and he has studied. And I think he has a lot of potential still to make a contribution. Number 4, I don't think that his political career is over. You know, what do they say? That morning comes just after darkness, dawn comes just after darkness. I don't remember the specific saying, but this is definitely a difficult moment for him, a dark moment. I don't think that his political career is over, but I do think that he does need to consider a shift away from polarizing politics and to take some time to understand issues of social justice and transformation in South Africa. My 5th point is that I think that he has to take some steps to address the concerns that were raised by Clement Manyathela and others about his conduct and how he responded to public scrutiny. My 6th point is this. To be honest, this is not how I would have wanted this to end. I would have preferred for him to be suspended maybe for 3 months, maybe for 1 month, to go to diversity training, perhaps even anger management. Let me explain what I would have liked to see in this situation. I would have loved for him, Renaldo, to perhaps take some time to read important books about racial justice, colonialism, and some of the issues that I think that he may not have been paying as much attention to as he needed to. His political context is sometimes over-informed by American politics and the politics of the Republican Party, and not necessarily the context as it applies to South Africa. I would have loved for him to simply have a better understanding of the pain of the people that he is a representative of and their perspectives. I would have loved for him to study the writings of Steve Biko, W.E.B. Du Bois, for him to look at Professor Kimberly Crenshaw, to look at the works of Dr. Walter Rodney, Dr. Sizwe Mpofu-Walsh, who have covered these topics. And there are more scholars, more authors than these. But I think that if he had taken, or would even now take some time to read these books, he would develop an understanding of how the people who he disagrees with see things. And perhaps also maybe to read some books on, debating with diplomacy, and not necessarily in this kind of like, very personal manner, because some of the ways that these guys debated were not constructive. And you saw with the apology that Roman Kabanak put out that he said, no, I was looking for debate and I chose sometimes to pick debates in this particular way. And then he definitely recognized that it wasn't the best way. And I think maybe also some books on that could have helped him. Why do I think that this was necessary, in terms of him to do this kind of work, this kind of remedial work? As a public representative, your role is bigger than merely arguing your side of the case. You're a steward for the poorest kids. You are a steward for the most affluent kids. You have to understand the children in Mlazi, Mpangeni. You have to understand the children in Sandton. You have to understand the children in Sea Point. You have to understand the aspirations of the parents in Cape Flats, the aspirations of the parents, Ekaelicha and other places as well. It's not just about representing your side. Your role is bigger. You are a steward for all of these people. You're a custodian for all of these people. And if you are not viewed by those people as being a genuine custodian for their concerns, their fears, their hopes and aspirations, they will ask you questions. They will challenge your occupation of that role. Being a public representative, you are one of only 400 out of 62 million. It's a rare air. It's a privileged position. It's a blessing. And it's a blessing that comes with a lot of responsibility, with a lot of weight, which requires wisdom, love, concern, and a heart for all of the people that you've been entrusted with. So I think that it would have been useful if he had covered some of this work. Listen, my 8th point is I still think that Renaldo has a chance to make a full unconditional apology and work his way back into mainstream politics. I think that this is not the end, it's just a dark hour, but if he's interested in serving the public, if he loves people, and this is where he thinks his life's work is going to be, this is a difficult moment. Steve Jobs was kicked out of Apple computers in the 80s, and then he came back, but he had to spend a lot of time in the wilderness, so to speak, working on himself, becoming a different person. When he came back to Apple, he was on fire. He came in, and that was the time that he was needed. And Apple now is the most valuable company in the world. This is directly to Renaldo. Renaldo, from me to you, I'm sorry that you have lost your job as a member of parliament. I can't imagine how happy and joyful you were when you got this job and when this role was bestowed upon you. So I'm sorry that you have lost your job as a member of parliament, sincerely. Personally, from my side, I never wanted this, and I think I've articulated many times that there were other ways that this could have been dealt with. I think for you to continue living in the space of your dreams. So I'm sorry that you've lost this job. I'll be praying for you, because this is not easy. All of this is not easy. This can't be easy for you, for your family, for your friends, for people who support you. I hope that you talk to people who can guide you with love and with care for the next stage of your journey. And I hope that you can take, I hope constructive criticism from the people who are involved in this moment and hear what they are saying, not with just pain or anger, but with a real appreciation that not everyone who was speaking to you viewed you as an enemy or hates you. They just didn't like what you said and how you moved. But it's not a reflection on you, your education, and maybe even your heart. I'll be praying for you, man. This definitely can't be easy. And I hope to see you back in politics, mainstream. Perhaps maybe, by election, you can run as an independent, see if you can get in. You're still very popular in your own municipality. You have a background in local government. Perhaps that can be the beginning point of you getting back. Maybe you can start to have conversations with people who disagree with you, and try to develop, in public, an appreciation for the different talking points, the different worldviews. And that could be maybe a way for you to also, regain public confidence. I don't know. But hope to see you back in politics, man. Genuinely. I mean that. Thanks everyone who's been watching. Watch till the end. I don't know what you guys think. Let's have a conversation in the comments. Till the next one.